I've been deliberating on whether to discuss several studies briefly in one video or focus on one study and talk about it more comprehensively and in more detail. For this video I've decided to go with more of less instead of less of more, but let me know what you think about this approach in the comments section. This video is about David Reimer, who was a Canadian man born biologically male but reassigned as a girl and raised female following medical advice and intervention from his doctor after his penis was accidentally destroyed during a botched circumcision in infancy. So David Reimer was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba. He was originally named Bruce, and his identical twin brother, who was named Brian. At the age of 6 months, a concern was raised by his parents about how both of them urinated. The boys were diagnosed with phimosis. They were referred for circumcision at the age of 7 months, and on April 27, 1966, a urologist performed the operation using an unconventional method of cauterization, which is the burning of a part of a body to remove or close off part of it. However, the procedure did not go as the doctors had planned, and Bruce's penis was burned beyond surgical repair. The doctors chose not to operate on Brian, whose phimosis soon cleared up without surgical intervention. Dr. Money was a psychologist, and he was a prominent proponent of the theory of gender neutrality. That is, gender identity developed primarily as a result of social learning from early childhood, and then it could be changed with the appropriate behavioral interventions. You've got to remember that this was the time of Skinner, and behaviorism was held to the highest esteem in psychological and academic circles. Money had been working on a theory that any boy could be raised as a girl. He believed that nurture was more important than nature when it came to gender roles. The Reimer twins provided Money with a perfect sample. 2 twin boys, one believing they were a girl, raised by the same people in the same way. This allowed Money to experiment on Bruce while using his twin brother Brian as a control. Money and his team persuaded the baby's parents that sex reassignment surgery would be in Reimer's best interests. At the age of 22 months, Bruce underwent a bilateral orchidectomy, which is an operation where his testes were surgically removed and a rudimentary vulva was fashioned. Bruce was reassigned to be raised as a female and given the name Brenda. Psychological support for the reassignment of surgery was provided by John Money, who continued to see the Reimer family annually for about a decade for consultations and to assess the outcome. Pretty much he was gathering data, using these 2 kids and their family as participants in his study. His reassignment was considered a valid test of the social learning concept of gender identity for 2 primary reasons. First, made an ideal control because the brothers shared the same genes, family environment, and womb. So that covers the basis of both nature and nurture. Secondly, this was reputed to be the first reassignment and reconstruction performed on a male infant who had no abnormality or prenatal or early postnatal sexual differentiation. So, was it an interesting study? Yes. Was it unethical? Absolutely. Reimer said that Dr. Money forced the twins to rehearse sexual acts involving thrusting movements, with David playing the bottom role. Reimer said that as a child he had to get down on all fours with his brother Brian up behind his butt with his crotch against his buttocks. Reimer said that Dr. Money forced David in another sexual position to have his legs spread with Brian on top. Reimer said that Dr. Money also forced the children to take their clothes off and engage in genital inspections. On at least one occasion, Reimer said that Dr. Money took a photograph of the 2 children doing these activities, while Dr. Money's rationale for these various treatments was his belief that childhood sexual rehearsal play was important for a healthy adult gender identity. For several years after the surgery, Dr. Money reported on Reimer's progress as the John Joan case, and he bragged that the child's behavior was so clearly that of an active little girl and so different from the boyish ways of a twin brother that the surgery and the following behavioral therapy must have been a success. Notes by a former student at Money's lab stated that during the follow-up visits, which occurred only once a year, Reimer's parents routinely lied to the lab staff about the success of the procedure, and the twin brother, Brian, later developed schizophrenia. Reimer had experienced the visits to the clinic in Baltimore as traumatic rather than therapeutic. When Money started pressuring the family to bring him in for surgery during which a vagina would be constructed, the family discontinued the follow-up visits. And from 22 months into his teenage years, Reimer urinated through a hole that surgeons had placed in the abdomen. Estrogen was given during adolescence to induce breast development. A book was written about Reimer's case by John Colapinto, and it's called As Nature Made Him, the Boy Who Was Raised as a Girl. And in that book, which I do recommend you to read if you find the story interesting, Colapinto described how, contrary to Money's reports, when living as Brenda, Reimer did not identify as a girl. In fact, he was ostracized and bullied by his peers, and neither the dresses which he was forced to wear nor female hormones made him feel female. By the age of 13, Reimer was experiencing suicidal depression, and he told his parents he would take his own life if they made him see Money again. On March 14th, 1980, when he was 14 years old, Reimer's parents told him the truth about his gender reassignment, following advice from Reimer's endocrinologist and psychiatrist. At 14, after having been informed of his past by his father, Reimer decided to assume a male gender identity, calling himself David. And by 1987, Reimer had undergone treatment to reverse the reassignment, including testosterone injections, a double mastectomy, and 2 phalloplasty operations. On September 22, 1990, he married Jane Fontaine and became a stepfather to her 3 children. In addition to his difficult lifelong relationship with his parents, Reimer had to deal with unemployment and the death of his brother Brian, who overdosed on antidepressants in 2002. On May 2004, his wife Jane told him she wanted to separate, and on the morning of May 4th, 2004, Reimer drove to a grocery store's parking lot and took his own life by shooting himself in the head with a sawed-off shotgun. He was 38 years old. And that is the end of this video. If you liked it and found it interesting, please like the video, and if you want to watch more videos like this one, subscribe to the channel. Thanks.